Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that usually gets buried in the fine print, right at the bottom of the pile.
Mm.
But it's the thing that quite literally holds billion-dollar projects together. We are analyzing a document called E2.11 Employer Requirement Document Management.
It sounds incredibly dry, doesn't it?
It really does.
It doesn't exactly scream summer blockbuster. But, if you ignore this document, you don't end up with a building or a power plant.
Yeah.
You end up with a very expensive, unmanageable mystery.
And that's the hook, right? We're looking at the nervous system of a major engineering project. This isn't just about how to file a PDF.
Not at all.
This specification, Rev 1, it's really the rules of engagement between the people with the money, the employer, and the people doing the work, the contractor.
Exactly. And the core insight here, the big takeaway right off the bat, is that in modern engineering, the physical asset is only half the deliverable.
The other half is the data.
The other half is the data. If the contractor builds a perfect refinery but hands over messy, unstructured data, the employer can't operate it. This document is the insurance policy against that exact scenario.
It's the difference between buying a complex machine with a manual and buying one where all the buttons are unlabeled.
Precisely. The stated objective in the source material is, well, it's all about ensuring the employer receives sufficient information to manage their assets long after the contractor has packed up and left.
So if the documentation is bad, the building might be standing, but the business itself could fail?
The business fails.
Okay, so let's get into the ecosystem. The document immediately draws a very clear line in the sand between two types of systems. We have the EDMS and the CMS. Help us distinguish these because they sound like, interchangeable corporate acronyms.
They are definitely not interchangeable, and mixing them up is a cardinal sin in this document. Think of the EDMS, the Electronic Document Management System, as the technical brain. This is where your drawings live, your specifications, your detailed how-to guides.
The blueprints.
The blueprints. If it describes the physical object, it goes in the EDMS.
So EDMS is the engineering library, the vault.
Right. Then you have the CMS, the Contract Management System. This is the lawyer's domain. This is for contract administration.
Yeah.
We're talking formal notices, change orders, payment applications, minutes of meetings.
And the document is strict about keeping them separate.
Rigidly separate. You do not mix church and state here. You don't upload a technical drawing into the billing system, and you certainly don't put a legal letter into the engineering library.
It keeps the work separate from the negotiation.
It does.
Yeah.
It lets the engineers focus on building without wading through payment disputes.
Now, there's a fascinating power dynamic in the section on who owns these systems. They call it option A versus option B.
Yes, this is where the rubber meets the road on control. It's a classic tug of war.
So what's the default?
Option A is the default in this document. And that means the contractor works inside the employer's EDMS.
Which means the employer holds all the keys.
Correct. Total data sovereignty. The contractor is basically a guest in the employer's house. They log in to the employer's server to do their work.
That makes sense for the employer. But why would there even be an option B?
Well, big contractors have their own sophisticated systems. They've got their own workflows, their own naming conventions. They really hate using someone else's clunky software.
I can imagine.
So the document allows for option B. The contractor can use their own proprietary system.
But wouldn't that create a data hostage situation if things go south? Pays the extra $1 million or we turn off the server.
It's a huge risk. But this document anticipates that exact scenario. It says, sure, use your own system, but you must grant the employer uninterrupted access.
Uninterrupted. So they can't lock you out during a dispute.
Exactly. And not just a login. The document implies full transparency. And there's a catch. If the contractor chooses option B, they own all the headaches. They have to do the training for the employer staff, they handle the data migration, and crucially, they have to ensure their metadata matches the employer's standard perfectly.
So even if it's their software, it has to speak the employer's language.
It's a very high bar to clear.
Yeah.
It effectively pushes them back toward option A unless they're really, really determined.
Speaking of communication channels, I found the email rule in section 2.1c to be, well, surprisingly relatable for anyone drowning in their inbox.
It's the anti-black hole clause. I love this part.
It explicitly states that emails are for day-to-day operational communication only. They are not official records.
This is so crucial. In a lawsuit, or even just a technical review 5 years from now, you cannot say, oh, I sent that drawing to you last Tuesday via email.
If it's not in the EDMS, it doesn't exist.
Strictly speaking, it doesn't exist. No decision by email chain. Because think about it. When that project manager quits 3 years from now, that email chain is gone. It's locked in a defunct account. The document demands that even for these operational emails, you have to CC a central project email address.
So there's a silent listener on every single email?
That's it. They're trying to create a hive mind that survives staff turnover. It ensures that if the entire team wins the lottery and quits tomorrow, the history of the project is still searchable in that one central inbox.
I love that. It's just acknowledging that email is a terrible place to store important history. Okay, so we have the systems, but you can't just start dumping files. You need a battle plan.
Yes.
The document calls for a DMP, a document management plan.
The DMP is the how-to manual for the project's information. The contractor has to write this and get it approved before they really start anything. It's them saying, here is exactly how we intend to follow your rules.
And it's not generic. The requirements are granular. I noticed a specific focus on electronic signatures.
That's all about provenance. You know, in the digital world, how do I know the chief engineer actually approved this beam design? It's just too easy to copy-paste a JPEG of a signature.
Right.
The DMP has to specify the software and the security used to ensure signatures can't be faked.
And then there's the as-built procedure.
Yeah.
I saw a reference to red and blue marking. What is that?
So this is where design meets reality.
Yeah.
You design a pipe to go straight in the CAD model. But when you get to the site, there's a concrete column in the way that wasn't on the map. So the builders have to bend the pipe around it.
So the drawings are now raw?
Exactly. The as-built is the record of that bend. And the document mandates a strict procedure for tracking this. Red marking usually indicates the change that was added on site. Blue marking might indicate comments or things that were removed.
Then the specific colors matter.
Standardization. If everyone uses different colors, it's just chaos. And make sure that if you try to repair that pipe 10 years later, you're looking at a drawing of where it actually is, not where it was supposed to be.
It also mentions asset coding. This feels like the bridge between the file and the physical world.
It is the most important link. Every single document must be tagged with an asset code, a unique ID for every pump, every motor, every single door.
So it's basically creating a relational database.
It is. It means I don't just search for pumpmanual.pdf and hope I get the right one. I search for asset ID P101, and the system pulls up the manual, the drawing, the test certificate, and the warranty for that specific pump.
Without that, you just have a digital junk drawer.
A junk drawer. With it, you have a library.
And to enforce all this, the document requires a human gatekeeper, a document control manager.
A dedicated lead. Not an intern, not a side job for the admin assistant. A specific named individual who is responsible for the integrity of all this data.
A human bad cop.
You need one. It acknowledges that software is great, but you need a person to enforce the discipline.
Which brings us to their main weapon, the MDR, the Master Document Register. You seem very excited about this in the pre-show notes.
I love a good MDR. So the bridging document. It is the single source of truth for progress.
But isn't it just a list of files? An Excel sheet?
Oh, it's so much more. It's a Gantt chart for information.
Yeah.
It tracks what documents are planned, when they're coming, and what their status is. And this document, E2.01, it puts real teeth into the MDR.
How so?
2 big rules. First, if a document is not listed on the MDR, the engineer can decline to even review it.
So you can't just invent deliverables on the fly.
No. If it's not on the menu, the kitchen doesn't cook it.
Yeah.
And second, you can't delete lines. If you plan to write a report and then decided not to, you can't just hit backspace. You have to mark it void or superseded.
You can't erase the history of the decision.
Exactly. It preserves the intent.
There's also a timing constraint that I thought was brilliant. Documents must be listed on the MDR 2 months before you submit them.
That is the anti-document dump rule.
The document dump.
It's a classic kind of shady contractor tactic. You're behind schedule, you haven't submitted anything for weeks. Then, on a Friday, at 4:55 p.m., you upload 600 documents to the system.
Hoping to just bury the reviewers.
Exactly. You overwhelm the employer's review team so they can't find the mistakes, or so you can just claim, hey, I submitted it on time. But this rule says no surprise parties. You have to signal the workload 60 days out so the employer can staff up to review it properly. It levels the playing field.
I was looking at the metadata required for this MDR. It might be an Excel sheet, but the detail for every single line item is just intense. It wants WBS references, plan versus actual dates, native file formats. And this one caught my eye. Purpose of issue.
Yes.
Why does that distinction matter? For information versus for a review?
It dictates the clock. If I send you something for information, I'm just keeping you in the loop. The clock isn't running. But if I set it for review, I am legally triggering a contractual time window, usually 14 or 21 days, where you must respond.
So the MDR tracks exactly whose court the ball is in.
Exactly. It prevents the, I thought you were looking at it excuse.
Okay, so we have the system, the EDMS, we have the strategy, the DMP, and the tracker, the MDR. Now let's talk about how this whole library is actually organized. The document breaks the project down into books.
It's a folder structure on steroids. It standardized the library so every single project looks the same. Whether you're building a tunnel or a tower, Book 1 is always Book 1.
It starts with Book 0 and Book 1.
Right. Book 1 is the employer's private stuff, internal memos, board approvals. The contractor doesn't touch this. Book 1 is the contract itself, the standards, the rules of the game.
And Book 2 seems to be the control center.
That's project management. This is where you find the safety records, the quality plans, cost control, resources. It's the administrative heartbeat of the ongoing work.
Then Book 3 is for approvals and permits. But I want to focus on what the document calls the handover documentation. This seems to be the real core product. Books 4 through 7.
This is the meat of the project. This is what the employer is actually buying, aside from all the steel and concrete.
So Book 4 is test and verification.
That's the proof. The test results that say, yes, the concrete is strong enough, or yes, the pressure vessel holds water. Without Book 4, you just have a claim. Book 4 is the evidence.
Book 5 is design and construction.
The technical DNA, the drawings, the calculations, all the descriptions of the structure. If you need to knock down a wall in 20 years, Book 5 is what tells you if the building will fall down when you do it.
Book 6 is user guides.
The operator's manual, how to drive the car, maintenance manuals, spare parts lists. If a red light starts flashing on the control panel, the operator runs to Book 6.
And finally, Book 7, operational documentation. This one seemed a bit specific. It's records of operation before the employer takes over.
Yes, and this is crucial for what we call teething problems. When the contractor is commissioning the plant, they have to run it for a while to prove it works. Book 7 captures those logs.
Why is that important?
Imagine buying a used car. You'd want to know if it stalled 3 times last week, wouldn't you?
Of course.
Book 7 tells the employer if the system was throwing errors during the testing phase. It prevents the contractor from just clearing the error log and saying, here you go, it's perfect.
Now, we've been saying books and documents, which implies paper, but Section 8 and 10 make it very clear we are moving beyond just PDFs.
Well, absolutely. This is the modern twist. We are moving into data and models. Section 8 requires asset data lists.
This goes back to the coding we talked about earlier.
Yes, but it demands the raw data.
Right.
Not a picture of a spreadsheet, but the actual data upload. This lets the employer import the equipment list directly into their own maintenance software like SAP or Maximo on day 1.
So they don't have to hire a temp to type it all in for 6 months.
Exactly. And visually, we have requirements for photos and video.
Organized photos, not a USB drive full of 10,000 unsorted JPEGs.
No. The document mandates a folder structure sorted by month like Jan 2023 and then by category.
It's amazing how specific that is. It really stops that digital shoebox delivery method.
And don't forget the big one, the 3D model, Section 10.
The digital twin.
The document requires uninterrupted access to the project's 3D model in viewing mode. The employer needs to be able to fly through the plant virtually.
This isn't just a marketing tool anymore.
No, it's a base requirement for verifying the design. They want to see if the pipes clash before they pour it in concrete.
So everything is uploaded, coded, sorted, and modeled. Now comes the review and handover process. How does this document describe closing the loop?
Well, the review cycle is pretty standard but rigorous. It goes through a quality check first. Does it look right? Does it have the codes? Then a content review. Is the engineering actually correct?
And then a status is assigned. Accepted, accepted with comments, or rejected.
And accepted with comments is the purgatory of engineering, isn't it?
It is.
It usually means we'll take it but fix this one thing. But here is the ultimate leverage point in the whole document. The final MDR.
The final exam.
The source states that the master document register itself doesn't get accepted status until every single document listed inside it is approved.
Wait. So you're saying if one user manual out of 5,000 documents is rejected, the whole register is held up?
Theoretically, yes. The final MDR represents the keys to the kingdom. It is the checklist for handover. And usually the handover certificate and the big final payment that comes with it is tied to the acceptance of that final MDR.
That is a massive financial incentive to get the paperwork right.
It's the only way to ensure the documentation isn't treated as an afterthought. It makes the data a condition of completion. You literally cannot get paid for the building until you deliver the manual for the building.
That really drives home the point you made right at the start. The documentation is the asset as much as the building is.
It absolutely is. Without the map, the territory is useless.
So let's summarize. We have this document, E2.11. On the surface, it's a dry list of requirements about file formats and folders. But underneath, it's really a philosophy of total transparency.
It turns a physical construction project into a structured data set. It forces the contractor to be organized, to be transparent, and to think about the end user, the employer, from day one.
And for our listeners, whether they're in tech or business or construction, I think the takeaway here is pretty universal.
I agree. If you connect this to the bigger picture, the lesson is that the record of the work is just as valuable as the work itself. If you build a brilliant piece of software, or a bridge, or a marketing campaign, but you leave no map of how you did it or how to maintain it, you haven't actually finished the job.
You just created a future liability.
That's a great way to put it. You've created a future liability. And there's one final detail in the source material that I found incredibly provocative. I'd love to leave the listeners with this thought.
Go ahead.
In section 3.1d, regarding the initial MDR, the document mentions the use of dummy documents.
Dummy documents. It sounds like an insult.
It sounds funny, but it's a profound planning tool. It says the initial MDR allows for dummy documents. These are placeholders for records that don't exist yet, but you know will be needed later.
So it's planning for the blank spaces.
Exactly. It's a blank space on the map that says, here be dragons, or maybe here will be a safety audit. Usually we only list what we already have. But this system asks you to list what you don't have yet.
It forces you to visualize the unknowns.
It demands you acknowledge the gap. And I think that's a great mental model for any project, really. Don't just list your assets, list your empty slots.
Plan for the dummy documents. That is a powerful concept to take into the rest of the week.
Absolutely. It's the only way to ensure they eventually get filled.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the nervous system of construction projects. We hope you will never look at a file folder or an Excel spreadsheet the same way again. Thanks for listening.
If you're interested in the templates, please visit our shop. The link is in the description.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see next time.